Welcome to another cross-training tutorial, and today what we're going to do is continue a tutorial series that I've been making called the Craft of Engineering Homework. And what I'm going to do in this particular tutorial is show you how to put together a submission package. So let's just go over what we have so far. So right now I've created kind of like two assignments. So let me open one. So this is something that we had worked on in the last tutorial and we exported it as a JPEG. There's another one inside the folder that I just made kind of random from a previous exam involving ideal mixtures and psychrometric applications, just for the purposes of this demonstration. So since I chose contract B, I'm always going to have two homework assignments that I need to submit, and with my template I know that I can always get it to fit on one page unless I need to submit a psychrometric chart with it. So to submit it, there are some guidelines that the professor would like us to have, and that is on the very last page, on the back side of the page, it needs to have our name, our thermo number, and our contract letter. And then he didn't really say that if we needed a cover page or not needed a cover page, and with my homework submissions I usually like to have a cover page because sometimes I'll have multiple submissions in a day and I don't want to get work that I did for class A mixed up with class B. So one thing that I like to do is create a cover page and a back page. So I'm going to go look at what I actually did for this course. So these are all the assignments that I had for this course. I also downloaded the solution so I could check my own work. So down here all the way at the bottom I have underscore template cover sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and open that because this was my template cover sheet. And I have it zoomed all the way in, so let me zoom out. So again, sometimes your professor may not require you to have a cover sheet, so it's not required. But in my case, I decided to include one just so that I don't get confused. And the formatting of this is probably most likely up to you since, one wasn't really required. So I personally like to have, the course up at the top, the year that I took the course or semester. And then some of the elements that were required on every single homework sheet, I also like to have on the front sheet, just so that, I don't want the cover sheet to become something that's more of an obstacle, but it's meant to be helpful. So again, kind of the same elements that were on each homework sheet, I am also going to include on my cover sheet, and then kind of some additional information in case my homework gets lost or something. And then the second page is what needs to appear on the very back side of the last page of the homework problem, or the homework submission. So that's going to be your name, your thermo number, and your letter. So this is what I have here. So going back, so I always keep something like this saved inside of my assignments folder, because every time I need to submit, I just pop this guy open, go in here and update the letters and the problem numbers, and then basically save it. So from here, what you do is really dependent upon what your professor wants. So in this particular example, I'm going to show how to do a digital submission. So how do we put all of these pieces together? So I'm going to do a save as really quick for this, and I'm going to put it in our demo folder just so I don't mess up my actual course stuff. And I usually save it in here. So now any changes I make will end up in this other folder. And what I'm going to do, and this is the part where you actually need the Adobe Acrobat Writer or an alternative that can make Adobe Acrobat files. So from here I'll go to File and Print and choose your Adobe Acrobat Maker if you have one. I actually have Adobe Acrobat, I think it's a CS6 version, it's a relatively old version installed here. And then down here where it says Pages, I can either print all of this out, or I can do it one by one. So let's just do it one by one. So let's do page 1 first, and then I'll do a print. And then I'm going to save this into that assignment. So I'll just call this cover sheet. And then usually what I like to do, because I'm super lazy, because the back sheet never ever changes, I'll just do a file and print again, and this time page 2 for the back sheet. And I'll save this up a folder with my template and just call it, you know, back. And each time I start, I got my caps lock on again. Each time I start a new homework, I just grab a copy from over here. So I'll grab this each time I start a new problem and just paste it in there. So I'll just do that again. That way I only have to print the first sheet and not the back sheet, because the back sheet never changes. Alright, now looking inside of this folder, notice I have my cover sheet, I have my back sheet, and I have the 2 problems that I need to submit. So I'm just going to highlight all of this. Again, you need the Acrobat writer to do this. Right click, and I'm going to combine supported files in Acrobat. And in this list it's going to be random, so you'll need to check the order. So cover should be on top, back sheet should be on the bottom, and then just make sure that you have these in order. So I check the end, 1 and 2, and that looks good. And then from here I just choose combine files. So this is what it will look like once it's combined. And again, I didn't change this information here, but on yours you'll want to change it to, you know, whatever week you're going to submit for. And this is what it'll look like when it goes into digital homework format. So if I'm going to do an online submission, this is what I would submit. I would actually submit this PDF. And notice up here it says binder. So I would likely do a save as, and it would go back inside of that folder. And again, I'd probably have my name in here. And we already have the startings of something here. So maybe it was homework 3. Evaluating properties was the focus of this homework. And then I'll just click save. And then over here on the right side, once I'm done, I don't need these other files anymore, so I tend to delete them to save disk space. And this is what I would actually submit, and this is what the professor would see. Now sometimes your professor will accidentally not have the submission box open. If that happens, you may find it pretty handy to email it to your professor so that he knows that you actually did it and you tried to submit it on time, but the submission drop box just wasn't there, the button wasn't activated. So what if your professor doesn't do digital submissions? They like it on paper, but you still like doing this kind of like digital way of getting your homework done. Well, obviously you can just take this and send it to a printer somewhere and just print it. Now when you go to print, there's some things that you'll need to pay attention to. So let me send it to an actual printer. So this is an actual physical printer connected to my computer. I updated to 1709, and ever since then this has been like really slow to select a printer. I don't know what the deal is. I've even reinstalled the drivers. So notice here it says shrink oversized pages. You want to be careful about this setting, because if you use this setting, your homework may become pixelated and difficult to read, and some of it sometimes gets a little bit distorted. So choose actual size. Now when you choose actual size, it may mean, you know, depending upon your printer, that some of the stuff along the edges will get cut off. And recall, we did compensate for that, because remember, we were very careful about not writing things to the upper edge, and we don't care if our logo gets chopped off, and we don't care, you know, if the right side of our page number box gets chopped off. But, you know, for the most part, the information is here. So I printed to a variety of printers because I lost my job last semester, and I found that this format worked on pretty much every single printer that I needed to print to, that I could find available to me to print to. So this will definitely work. Just make sure that you choose actual size and not shrink oversized pages. The other thing is, if you choose shrink oversized pages, your engineering paper will not be to scale. So remember, each of those boxes are exactly 1 inch. It'll be a little bit less than 1 inch. If you print actual size, each of these boxes on your engineering paper will be 1 inch. So I'm going to click cancel since I'm not actually going to print this. Sometimes your professor may want you to use another application. Like I remember one semester I took a class with a professor and he was using some Wiley book application, and you actually had to draw in or submit an image of your homework. So this, this pretty much counts as an image of your homework. So if that's the case, then all you would need to do is, let's just pretend like, we'll just go back to Word here. And I remember in the Wiley application, you had the ability to insert an image. And if that's the case, you just go to the insert and insert picture, and you insert these JPEGs in there, and you can stretch them out to scale. I don't remember if the Wiley application actually had a ruler or not, but I remember you could expand and shrink down what you import. I think as long as you have both of your homework submissions at the same scale, like one sheet isn't bigger than the other, then when you bring it in and resize it, it should be perfectly fine. I remember doing that for that particular class, and the professor didn't seem to mind too much. The only thing he cared about is that it was legible and that each sheet was consistent.